What's going on, guys? Radio Graffiti here, and today I want to talk to you guys about the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe, full of potential. But today I want to talk to you guys about the worst of what we got and some of the best that we got. I want to rank all the DCEU films from worst to best. So, with that being said, let's not waste any more time here. James Gunn's DC Universe is coming next year, so let's finally close the chapter on the DCEU with this video. And in my opinion, the worst DC Extended Universe movie. And that is a very, very hard title to claim because there is a lot of shit movies that they have. But in my opinion, the absolute worst is Suicide Squad from 2016 by David Ayer. This movie sucks so much ass, man. Villain's terrible, dialogue's dog shit, bad pacing. It's just boring overall. Jared Leto is one of the worst Jokers we've ever had. He's definitely the worst in live action. It's going to take a lot to top this guy. He did so fucking awful in this movie. His performance is terrible. His character design is terrible. There's nothing good about this Joker. It's dog shit. The only somewhat redeemable quality about the film is maybe Harley Quinn. Outside of that, yeah, I think this is hands down the worst DCEU movie. And it was very close. It was between this and my next on my list, and I have Justice League, directed by Joss Whedon / Zack Snyder. The Frankenstein abomination that crawled out of Warner Brothers' abortion bucket onto movie screens everywhere. I cannot believe that Justice League in this state got released in movie theaters. Just imagine if we got the Snyder Cut back in 2017. Things would probably be so different. But no, they gave us a bunch of joking characters. Why is Batman telling jokes? Why is the green screen so terrible? Why does Henry Cavill have such a weird lip? Like, what is going on with this movie? The green screen sucks. The dialogue is not funny at all. It's just a Frankenstein abomination of a film. I hesitate to even call this a movie. The only reason it's above Suicide Squad is for the scenes that are actually from the Snyder Cut. Those are the rare, somewhat decent. It's hard to explain. It's such a weird, jarring movie because it's like it has aspects from the Snyder Cut, which we know is a good movie, but they rip certain pieces out and put it together with the dog shit that Joss Whedon came up with when Warner Brothers had him to come redo this movie. So yeah, I don't think I need to keep going on too long about this. Everybody knows this sucks. If you like this movie, I really don't think anybody should listen to your film criticisms because this movie is absolute dog shit. Literally terrible. And just above that movie, we have Wonder Woman 1984. This movie is the Amazing Spider-Man 2 of the DCEU. Only it didn't set up a whole bunch of villains, so that's the only thing it did somewhat better than the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but everything else it's guilty of. It's cringy, it's cheesy, bad CGI, bad effects. The villains are absolutely terrible. There's some weird attempt at bringing Chris Pine back from the dead as Steve Trevor. It was just a really weird, rapey, icky kind of subplot. It wasn't worth it. You should have just kept him dead. What the fuck was this movie? And I'm one of the rare people, I didn't really care too much for the first Wonder Woman film. It was just extremely mid. I think it's very overrated. So I thought, surely the second one has to be better than what came out in 2017. Nope. Even worse. Good God. Below average action. Bad acting. It's just nothing good about this movie, really. The only reason it's a little bit above Justice League is Pedro Pascal, and Wonder Woman's costume looks nice. It's a little brighter, I guess. So the bar is very low for the DCEU. There's a lot of terrible movies. And we aren't done. Next on my list, I have Birds of Prey. I don't remember much about this movie. I just know it was very annoying that they have 120-pound women throwing around and taking down buff-ass 200-pound dudes. Harley Quinn takes down an entire police station with a bat. The humor was not funny. I didn't care about any of the characters, which is a huge problem because I already liked Huntress and Black Canary going into this film. I've been waiting to see these two characters specifically adapted into live action. And then we finally got it, and I don't know what the fuck that was. This movie is so forgettable. It feels like a terrible attempt at doing Deadpool. Like, I'm sorry, just stop trying to make Harley Quinn a main character. She really doesn't work well as a main character. She's supposed to be a side character. You know this film had an identity crisis because they tried to rename it. Because they really were so desperate to put Harley Quinn's name in the title. Next up, we got Black Adam. Yeah, this movie did not feel like Black Adam. It feels like The Rock making an easy paycheck. He's basically just playing himself as a superhero. The villain sucks so much ass. I couldn't even tell you what his name was if you put a gun to my head. I have no idea what the villain's name was in this film. Some kind of demon guy. The Justice Society was pretty cool. I like Dr. Fate. That's probably the best part about the entire film, was getting to see Dr. Fate in his badass costume adapted to live action. Next up, Blue Beetle. This is just a pretty generic superhero movie. I don't really think it's god awful like the rest of the films, but it's just, yeah, the villain's dog shit. I already done a review for this film, so I really don't need to go too in depth with this. The family was cool, I guess. Wasn't very funny. The actor who played Blue Beetle, he was fine, whatever. It's really just a nothing burger of a film. Painfully mediocre is how I describe it. Right above that, I have Aquaman 2. It's long, it's boring, generic. It's just a safe film that doesn't do anything outstanding. Some of the action was decent, I guess. Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson were really the best part of the entire film. Great. Next up, we have Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods. The movie's very generic, but it's not really harmful, just kind of forgettable. It's just a fine film. It's pretty harmless. It's a fine little action movie. The only reason it's up so high is because, it doesn't do anything to really piss me off. The villains are just really forgettable and lame. Some of the effects are pretty at times, but yeah, Shazam 2. Not much to say about it. Kind of comes and goes, but it's serviceable, I guess. And number 8, we have Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Oh boy. I could talk about this movie for several hours, probably several days, but just to give you a summary, real quick. Lex Luthor's a terrible villain. I don't like that Batman murders people in here. The Martha scene does not work. We waste so much time with the movie with that boring-ass bullet subplot. The fight between Batman and Superman, while it could have been stronger narratively, it's still visually appealing. Batman's suit looks badass. Bruce Wayne, played by Ben Affleck, is visually perfect. He looks just like Bruce Wayne. He has the best live-action Batman suit, but all the killing and shit is just so stupid. Zack Snyder turned Batman into the Punisher. It's like Batman would not have dreams about gunning people down. The whole amazing thing about Batman and Superman is that they can be put into situations where they're forced to kill, but yet they still find a way out. You can see it's not realistic all you want to, but these are superheroes. That's kind of the whole point of the character. So those are my biggest problems with the film. Diana is cool for when she shows up. The Justice League cameos are very forced. It's got enough badass action scenes to give it a pass all the way up to number 8. Costume design's great. I've done a review on this. I don't need to keep going on, but yeah. BVS, I'm trying to stop myself. BVS number 8, Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman is one of the most overrated superhero movies. This thing has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody talks about it as if it's the best DCEU movie. And I get people are going to have different opinions. That's fine, but I personally just never got it. The cartoonish villains in this movie are just horrible, and they get way too much screen time. All the characters in this film are very cliche, except for maybe Diana and Steve. Gal Gadot's acting isn't exactly the best. It looks great. Costume design's great. There's some fantastic action sequences that occur in this film. Chris Pine and Gal Gadot have great chemistry in the movie. It's just, the villains are terrible. You have this cocaine-sniffing general guy, and he's just so cringy. And then you got this dude with this weird mustache as Ares for the final fight. And the dialogue he spits out is some shit from an old-ass video game. I will destroy you, Diana! Just the most cliche villain lines you can possibly think of. He says it. And then there's the other girl, Dr. Poison. We waste so much of the film's runtime on these very terrible villains. And it really just ruins the movie, if you ask me, from being great. If that was stronger, I'd say, yeah, sure, you got a pretty solid movie here. But yeah, I know that's probably an unpopular opinion. Number 6, I have Aquaman. It has some of the best costume design in any superhero movie. Some of the best costumes I've ever seen. Some of the acting can be a little bad, mostly from young Arthur. It's kind of just another okay film. It's nothing spectacular, just whatever kind of film. Yeah, I like the final fight scene with him and Ocean Master. That was all pretty cool. Got some nice looking action. You can actually see what's going on, unlike a lot of other films where it's just a shaky cam mess. So yeah, Aquaman, it's a very fun film. If it wasn't, it probably wouldn't have made $1 billion, now would it? Aquaman. Who would have thought this would have been the highest grossing movie in the entire DCEU? People must have just been starving for some fun cinema. Number 5, I have Man of Steel. I like Man of Steel. It's a pretty good movie. It's hard to give praise to Zack Snyder's movies because his fandom is so fucking toxic. These people will literally tell you to go kill yourself and your entire family just because you don't like Zack Snyder's take on these characters. But I kind of like Man of Steel and Justice League for what they are, where it's kind of a different alternate take on these characters. It's like something new, something fresh. I kind of like that about Man of Steel. Like, yeah, he's not the Christopher Reeve or Superman the animated series kind of Superman, but he's a more alien type Superman. I like how his costume kind of reflects more of him being an alien and the whole thing with Krypton. That's all pretty neat in the film. I thought that was very unique. It's a shame that we'll never get an actual direct sequel for this film. You can call BVS a sequel, but I feel like that was just kind of a rush attempt at setting up a universe. I know Zack wasn't really trying to set up a universe, but still that's how it comes across as. I would like to see Supergirl and Brainiac for a Man of Steel 2. Rather than Batman, Wonder Woman, and a bunch of Justice League cameos. That feels more like how a sequel would be for Man of Steel. But yeah, Zod and Feora, they're pretty damn good villains if you ask me. I like them. It's just kind of weird the way the movie's kind of set up. It's like the first act is just a bunch of setup for Superman, his origin story, his backstory, Krypton, Jor-El, all that kind of stuff. And then the second act, it's just him, Zod, and Jor-El meeting Lois Lane and yada yada. And then the whole third act is just a whole bunch of action. So it feels kind of jarring, if you ask me. That is what I've noticed on my tons of rewatches of Man of Steel. And that's kind of how the movie flows. Yeah, pretty good Superman movie. It's fine. Now, if you may have noticed, there's one movie I haven't talked about yet. It's my most controversial take yet. My hot take. Are you ready to dislike this video? Here we go. Get that dislike button ready. But just hear me out first. You made it this far. Hear what I gotta say first. That's right. Next up, I got The Flash. Number 4. That's right. I'm not trolling you. The Flash is my 4th favorite DCEU movie. I think all the stuff with Barry Allen and his mom was very emotional. It really sold the movie, if you ask me. Also, I kind of like the dynamic between Batman and Flash in the film, whether it be with Ben Affleck or Michael Keaton as Batman with Ezra Miller's Flash. That stuff I thought was all pretty neat. I think it's got some decent action scenes as well. I've been waiting for a Flash movie forever, so I'm kind of probably a little bit biased for this because, I love the Flash. He's one of my favorite DC heroes, so I might be a little biased there. And yes, I know the cameo scene is terrible, but it only lasts for like a minute or two, so I can easily overlook that. I know it's awful. That's all people talk about when they hate on The Flash. The scenes where the CGI looks terrible and then the awful, god-awful cameo scene that happens at the end of the film. I understand those flaws, but I still enjoy the film. I kind of like that there's no villain in the film, per se. Like, I know Dark Flash is kind of the villain of the film, but I don't know. I just think what gives it an advantage is that you're not wasting so much time on some terrible generic villain. And the whole movie is basically just a Barry Allen adventure. Sure, it could have been way better. I wish they hadn't wasted Barry Allen's first movie with his Flashpoint bullshit. Sure, this is not the Flash movie I would have greenlit personally, but I still like the film for what it is. It's an enjoyable, fun time. So many people hate this movie just because they're following what other people say online. I like the Flash. I get it's not perfect. It's got flaws here and there. So yes, this and that may not make sense. Whatever. I don't care. There's a guy in a red condom who can travel at the speed of light. I really don't give a fuck about nitpicks here and there about, the time travel, move the sauce. I don't care, bro. Number 3 is Shazam. When I first watched this movie, I really hated it. I think it was just a superhero fatigue. But then after rewatching it later on, I ended up really liking the film. And now I really, really like it. If it's classified as a Christmas movie, then this is my favorite Christmas movie. It's a very fun film. I like it. It's great. It's funny. Got great dynamic with Billy Batson and Freddy. They're great. They really sell the movie. Also, Dr. Sivana was a pretty menacing villain. Mark Strong can do no wrong as a villain. Shame we never got to see him as Sinestro. Yeah, I like this movie. It's fun. It's emotional. It got some heart to it. The whole family thing I really loved. That's what I like about Shazam 1 and 2. The whole thing about them being a family. You don't see that a lot in superhero movies. So, yeah, I really like that. Number 2. Oh boy. I have Zack Snyder's Justice League. The only flaw with this movie is that it's way too long. 4 hours long. Yeah, that's not a very good rewatch. That's literally a whole good chunk of your day. 4 hours. That's a long ass movie, Zack. The scene with the woman singing with Aquaman or whatever is kind of weird, but outside of that, I really love this movie. It's not the Justice League movie I personally want to see. It's not perfect, but for these kind of different versions of these characters that we've seen in Zack's universe, I think this movie's awesome. It's got great action scenes. I wish Batman could do a little more, but he's still good in the movie. Superman is a badass in this film as well. When he shows him to start beating the shit out of Steppenwolf. Fantastic. And Cyborg, he is the heart of this film. He is such a great character. I can't believe they removed Ray Fisher's scenes from Justice League back in 2017, because he is absolutely the heart and soul of this film. Wonder Woman is badass as well. I love seeing Darkseid. As a huge fan of the animated DC universe, I loved seeing Darkseid. It's a shame that we'll never get a follow-up to anything that is teased in this film. That's another negative for it, I guess. Is that it's just a bunch of setup for future movies that will never happen. But yeah, Zack Snyder's Justice League, number 2. Really love it. Just wish I could rewatch it more. It's a long movie. Steppenwolf's a pretty decent villain as well. Much more menacing than he was in the Whedon cut. And my favorite DCEU movie is The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn, released back in 2021. This is one of the movies I rewatch the most in the DCEU. I think it's great. The characters are fantastic. It's extremely hilarious. I remember I was dying laughing watching Weasel drown to death in the opening of the film. It's just hilarious how the movie opens up and everything's just going to shit. I mean, the squad's just dying left and right. It's a complete disaster. I loved that so much. It was so fucking funny. I wish I could have watched this movie for the first time in a movie theater, but Warner Bros. At the time was run by a bunch of idiots who thought it'd be a good idea to release it day and date on HBO Max the same day I went to movie theaters. I would have loved to have seen this movie in movie theaters. I wish I could have, but I wasn't going to go pay $25 to go watch it in a movie theater when I can just pay, $5 or $10 and watch it in my living room for as much as I want to. Yeah. The Suicide Squad, I think, is the best that we've gotten from the DCEU. Idris Elba as Bloodsport, fantastic. Harley Quinn was great as well. Rick Flag, Peacemaker, tons of great characters. And I love what they did with the Peacemaker TV show as well. I thought that was going to be dog shit. It took me a while to actually watch that show, but then I eventually got around to watching it. And it's actually very entertaining. John Cena is fantastic in that role. I'm excited for season 2. Amanda Waller is great for the couple of scenes that she has. It's crazy how I think the best DCEU movie is a movie about the Suicide Squad, and then I have the worst movie being a movie about the Suicide Squad. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? I swear I didn't do that on purpose. That's just a huge coincidence. It just shows what a huge night and day difference both these Suicide Squad movies are. Starro, he's a pretty good villain. I don't really count Starro as the main villain of the movie. He only shows up in the third act. Because this is a movie about assholes, murdering assholes. Pretty much every character in here is a villain. And I like that. I don't need them all to be heroes. That's kind of the problem with the Suicide Squad movie in 2016. They called themselves villains, even though we didn't see them do much villainous shit. And they kept trying to justify them as sort of heroes or something. No, I want to see these people murder each other. I want to see these people kill innocent people. They're villains. That's what they do. That's why that scene is so funny. When Bloodsport and Peacemaker are kind of having a dick measuring contest when they're out there, murdering people. This scene is so great, man. So yeah, Suicide Squad. One of the most rewatchable comic book movies ever. I love this film. It's my favorite DCEU movie. And there you go. The DCEU is ranked from worst to best. Now that we finally close a chapter on this shitstorm of a universe, we can prepare ourselves for the DCEU. Hopefully brighter times are ahead for us DC fans. Because it's been a dark time. So yeah, that's all I got to say for now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And let me know your ranking down below and tell me how wrong I am. Keep in mind, guys, this stuff is all subjective. If you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine. We can have a respectful conversation in the comment section if you want to. You don't need to tell me to go kill myself because I have this movie higher than that movie. It's just personal preference. Hopefully I've explained my thoughts well enough for you to understand why I have movies where I have them. So yeah, with that being said, I will see you guys later.